Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest is Dr. Sanam Hafeez. She's here today to talk with us about PTSD, stress, anxiety, and also how social media plays a huge part in our relationships, both personal and professional, and how we can manage some of the anxiety that goes along with that. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Hafeez.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit about yourself. I understand that you're founder and clinical director of a practice.
I am a clinical and neuropsychologist. I found and direct comprehensive consultation psychological services in New York City, and I'm faculty at Columbia University.
Were you always interested in psychology, or is this something that you went to med school and decided to transition, or has this has been a lifelong dream of yours?
Always wanted to be a psychologist as far back as I could remember, and I kind of fell into neuropsychology, and I loved the field that I sort of chose to specialize in because it's all about assessment. It's all about evaluation. And I truly believe that in any area of, health or anything else really, without a proper assessment, you can't reach a solution. So this is, my field is all about the proper diagnostics, which in mental health is not as easy as, say, liver disease, because we're not necessarily a hard science. So, but we have a lot of tools at our disposal that a lot of psychologists either can't use or don't use, and it helps with whether it's medication or therapy, and it's a very important part of the treatment process.
So, as a professional, how do you normally get to the root of the issue with a client when there are so many aspects of what could actually be going on with them?
Well, I like to believe that I'm really good at my job. I love my job. I take a lot of interest, and I take my responsibilities as a psychologist very seriously. So when I see a new patient, I delve very deep into a very comprehensive interview, and I unearth some very deep-seated issues. And so they may come in for one thing, and it turns out there is a whole host of issues that they weren't even considering. And people don't always realize, people have a great perception of other people's lives. They don't realize what's really holding them down. And so when I do this very intensive interview, they are amazed by the stuff that comes tumbling out of them. So I would then, based on that interview, design a battery of tests, whether they're cognitive, neurological, neuropsychological, or psychiatric, whether it's anxiety or depression or bipolar, and sort of try to tease apart the different things that are going on. So we could say, all right, we've got this, and this is how we would address this, top-down approach. And medication could be part of the treatment, therapy can be part of the treatment, but there's no such thing as one size fits all. If you go straight into therapy or treatment, you get stuck with a standard dynamic, and that's not necessarily tailor-made for you. And that's why it doesn't work, which is why people lose hope and give up on treatment so early on.
Talking specifically about PTSD, we hear that term quite a bit. We hear that post-traumatic stress disorder, and we automatically, myself, I conjure up these images of combat, maybe an officer on the street, or maybe a traumatic car accident. Can you actually be diagnosed with a post-traumatic stress disorder when there's, simply things going on in a relationship that don't necessarily involve physical damage or severe psychological damage?
It's a very fine line, to be honest with you. I agree with you. There's a veteran out there who's possibly listening to this and thinking, please don't say that PTSD can, apply to just about everyone, because PTSD, traditionally, the term refers to, shell shock or something that happens that is out of the realm of normalcy and, causes extreme anxiety, and it lasts for a long time. It causes hypervigilance. It causes nightmares. It increases a constant state of anxiety, but people have started sort of throwing this term around very casually. And I don't like the fact that it's being used so with such ease. It's not a casual term. But that's not to say that some people may be more prone to it. So something that you and I might not find traumatizing, someone else might. And so from their experience, what they are experiencing could be PTSD. So then the question becomes, well, who are you to judge and decide, well, are you suffering from PTSD or not? Even though traditionally PTSD refers to catastrophic events, So someone goes through a breakup and says, I have PTSD. Well, that's not necessarily considered, the definition of PTSD means that it has to happen, 9/11 caused PTSD. That was a traumatic event for us. But if you lived in a war-torn, region or, where something like that happened on a daily basis, you may not be traumatized by it because you somehow become a little more desensitized to it. So that's the concept behind PTSD.
Well, you mentioned 9/11 specifically. Do you think, in your professional opinion, that a lot of the anxiety is caused by the speed at which we're being given the information about what's going on in the world and in our lives and in the lives of our family members and friends through Facebook and other social media platforms? Do you think that many, many years ago, at least once the news trickled down to certain people, there was a transition period or some time to get used to the new information before another traumatic thing instantly trended?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very common phenomenon. Like people would say, is it just me or there's, some catastrophic event every day? Well, no, it's probably happening, 50 years ago or 100 years ago. We just didn't have a constant stream of media outlets letting you know that it was happening. So, yes, I think that's part of the problem is that we are constantly in this anxious state because the only news we get to see is not about, some miraculous birth of a baby or how two people fell in love or, how a puppy saved, a little girl from a fire. Like, it's not, so that's not the news that we're being bombarded with. We're being bombarded with graphic images, horrific stories, catastrophic events of war. The election has obviously added on a great deal of stress to people. So and it never stops. It is a constant stream of it. So your body, has this fight or flight mechanism built into it. The fight is when you're in a battleground. The adrenaline is up, the cortisol is up because so your body thinks it's in battle mode. Your body never gets a chance to unwind from that. It never gets a chance to come back down, which is why I'm a big, big, big proponent, a big advocate of learning to detach from your cell phones and from the media. You have to learn to turn the TV off. You have to learn not to go on your Twitter or your Facebook or whatever your poison of choice is. I am a huge, huge advocate of saying, when you get home, put your phone on, do not disturb, and maybe allow like one or two very important phone calls. Most phones can do this now. Or if someone has your landline, people who want to reach you will reach you. If you have children especially, or you have pets, or you just want to unwind and take a long bath, put that phone in a drawer and go about your business. Play with your children, cook a meal, relax, unwind. That constant stimulation never allows your brain to shut down. Don't take that phone to bed. You cannot fall asleep. Most people, there's such an uptick in people complaining about sleep problems. It's because they take this phone to bed. They take their laptops and their tablets to bed. That blue light, we know from a scientific perspective, impairs sleep. But on top of that, that constant stimulation of the brain does not let your brain to shut down and to go to sleep. So people are getting less and less, quality sleep and fewer hours of it.
Talk about how to deal with withdrawal symptoms when we try to detach from social media or the television.
I think, and I may be wrong, I think people find when they do try, I think they find it refreshing. I don't think people have realized how much social media or the phone has taken over their life. So let's say your phone dies out, or let's say it breaks, or let's say you're in some remote part of the world where there's no Wi-Fi and you can't get on your phone for whatever reason. I think you realize how much better your day was in some ways, how much you were able to relax, how much you were able to go and enjoy the weather outside, or you played tennis after God knows how long, or, you just ran around the park with your dog, or, you took your kids to the ice cream parlor, things that we don't do because our time is eaten up by, you don't realize, you just think, oh, I'm just going to quickly check this. If you add up the hours people spend on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever they're doing, they're really wasting a couple of hours a day, easy.
Yeah.
So I think even though there might be a little bit of withdrawal, I think one of the other things that I suggest to people who listen, I understand, like you said earlier on in the this in another segment, that people have to use social media for work as employees or employers. So I'm not going to say just throw your phone away, stop using social media. Social media has become an undeniably important part of our lives. What you can do is ration it out like everything else. There's an addictive quality to social media, which I think is a little dangerous because it keeps you so addicted and to the screen and so stimulated that you just don't know how to break away. You can ration it. You could say, okay, you know what? I'm going to put myself on a diet today. I'm going to check Twitter 3 times instead of like 15 times or, 5 times. You can slowly go down. And you realize that your dependence on it will decrease with you just implementing some of these measures on yourself.
And where can our listeners go and get more information about your practice?
They can go to www.comprehendmind.com.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard, in studio with Dr. Sanam Hafeez, and she's been with us talking about some of the negative aspects of social media and how PTSD isn't a term that is, well, one size fits all. It's been a pleasure talking with you today, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm, and you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.